All right, Sylvia. Welcome everyone. We have a special treat for you. So Sylvia and I, we have a special friend and guest here.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and
Thank you so much, Kelvin. Hey, Kelvin, stand over here a little bit more. Look at the color Kelvin's wearing, aqua. Love it. Okay, everyone. Thank you for those of you who are here in person and those of you that are here on Zoom. I have somebody waving. That's Julia. Hi, Julia. So here today is another spectacular day over at Coldwell Banker Dynasty here in Temple City, our headquarters. An agency that cares and an agency with a lot of heart. We even have a guest from outside from another agency down the street. But we're going to start off by saying thank you to our lunch provider. Our lunch provider here was Mackenzie and Chase from Morrison Home Inspections. They'll be here after our main speaker is done at 1 o'clock. So if you can stay after that and give them 10 or 15 minutes of your time, appreciate that so much. But now it is my great honor to go ahead and be the one to introduce to you Art Carter. For those of you who don't know Art Carter is the CEO of the CRMLS Matrix, which is the largest MLS in the whole state of California. Art Carter's name is not just well known here in the state of California, but he's also known at national level with NAR, which is what I call our father association. We have our local association, which is a sibling, and then we have our CAR, which I call the mother, and then we have our NAR, which I call the father. So Art sits with people that make decisions all across the board, major decisions with the legal team. And we are so excited, beyond excited to have him here in person, because as you know, we've had some of his employees here from the compliance department in person, which we've learned a lot from. One of the fun facts that I like to share about Art is that he likes to play golf, but he also loves old cars, which we call vintage cars, classic cars. And for those of you that do follow him on Facebook, you'll see that he has a special eye for that. And I believe you have a muscle car yourself.
69 El Camino.
69 El Camino, okay. A 69 El Camino. So, I mean, they're amazing cars. They're sexy beasts. So along with that, I just want to say that, again, I'm very grateful to have him here in person. And with that said, Art, everyone here, let's welcome Art Carter.
Okay, perfect.
Do you want an opening or you want me to just put the slides on?
Just put the slides up.
All right.
That's fine.
All right, guys.
Okay, for those of you who are on Zoom, you have the added benefit of not having to look at my face and just my pretty slides. So that's a good thing for you guys. So thank you guys for having me. I'm going to go into this with the idea that it's a little bit different of a presentation for me.
Hey guys, just get the mute out all of our phones at this moment right now, please. Thank you.
What if it's $50 for every time your phone rings? Is that
$20. $20 here.
Right,
we're not that rich.
I like 50 better. So it's a little bit different of a presentation for me, primarily because, you know, Kelvin and Sylvia, my wife is Sonia. I don't know why I did that.
It's okay.
Just another S word. They gave me a list of questions that they wanted me to answer for you guys. And so I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. I am not your broker. I am not the person to answer some of the deeper questions, but they've asked me some deep questions that I'm going to give you what's going on at a national level and give you guys an idea of some of the changes that may be coming down the road, you know, more in depth, and give you some ideas of where we're going. Also going to give you an update on CRMLS as a whole. So let's dive into it. And the way that I operate is that
We're gonna push right.
there we go. Okay, I just wasn't pushing it hard enough. Obviously, that's who I am. But first question that Kelvin and Sylvia posed to me was, how are agents and brokers utilizing the power and technology of the MLS successfully? I say this a lot, you know, especially in some of the national meetings that we go to, some of the large broker conferences that I'm a part of. but I'm a firm believer that the multiple listing service is the biggest gift that the brokerage community has given to the consumer. And why do I say that? Because what you guys have in a multiple listing service is unique in the world. Absolutely unique. You guys know that for the most part, no other country besides Canada enjoys having an aggregated database of all the listings, most of the listings available in a marketplace. We've done the statistics on this, and about 90% of the listings within the CRMLS footprint, I'm going to show you a map at the end that'll give you an idea of what that footprint is. About 90% of those listings are actively listed on the multiple listing service and sold through the MLS. I know there's all this angst about all this off-market activity. Yes, that's occurring. Obviously, with some of the nuances in the marketplace, that is changing quite a bit. But I think you guys need to understand that the multiple listing service is still a huge part of the average broker and agent's day. You guys know that. We also know, Sylvia had brought up that we know whether or not you're reading those little messages that pop up. Yeah, we do. We also know that you're clicking on, I've read this about 0.04 seconds after you've logged into the system. Please quit doing that. We don't put those things up there just, for our own edification. They're pieces of information that it's important for you guys to have. And I think that the more that you guys pay attention to those pieces, it'll keep you out of trouble. It'll give you some tools that maybe you didn't understand that you had, and just give you some general pieces of information that we definitely want you guys to have over that time frame. So one of those things that I would highly invite you guys to do, and we're more than willing to send a trainer out in this office to give you guys an oversight of InfoSparks. How many of you guys use InfoSparks? InfoSparks. Not very many of you. Recognize that the market is changing and has been changing over the last 8 to 10 months. Interest rates, the discount rate, all of those things have had a definite impact on the movement of properties within not only CRMLS, but nationwide. And we're seeing, some tremendous numbers drops year over year. I don't have a slide to this effect, but I know in some of the offices aggregate that we're seeing within the CRMLS footprint as a whole, we're seeing a 35% year over year drop in closed sales in those different brokerages. You guys may be different here, I don't know, but it is a different world in which we are living in. Inventory is way down. The days on market is way up, which I'll get into. But you guys need to have an understanding for your buyers and brokers of statistically what's going on in your marketplace. And I think it's important. InfoSparks is a free tool. It's part of the dues that you're paying. I don't know if you guys are mostly Arcadia here or West San Gabriel, Arcadia, wherever you guys are belonging to. That's part of the MLS services that you guys are paying for on a monthly basis. And so it's a tool that you guys can utilize. It is going to allow you to dive in to what's going on to a zip code level, to a marketplace level, to a city level, and give you guys an idea real time of what's going on as far as what sales are going through across the board. So I'd highly, highly, highly recommend that you guys take some time and learn this platform.
I do have a piece of input.
Sure.
You have a count. Let's say I'm looking at month, April, May, and June. It's a 3, 4, and 6 count. There should be a way I can know which counts you're using, at the MLS number or the address. So I can see I can throw out certain statistics or outliers that really influence. Like go down to the zip code or.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
A count is not enough. I want to know what you're using. What MLS number, or at least something, so I know.
Down to the MLS number, so you can pull it out if you want to do that from a, yeah, okay. That's a great recommendation. So I am going to walk you guys through some stats in the marketplace that is CRMLS, just so you guys have an understanding of a little bit more of where things are going. We do have a 7.15% decrease in the average close price across CRMLS. Yes.
Is that
That's,
whole MLS, or
that's-
is that just LA County? or
that's the
can you-
whole MLS.
So you're talking about all the way up to Stockton or wherever you
Yep.
go, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to give you guys an overall market picture of where some of the dynamics are. I am not going to give you the individual marketplaces because you guys can go in to InfoSparks.
And you can put in your own.
You can put in your own
parameters.
parameters and you're going to be able to even down to the Temple City, Arcadia, you know, all of the different cities that you're doing your business in, you're going to be able to do that yourselves. I'm trying. One of my favorite sayings is, and Sylvia knows I'm a big sayings guy, is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah.
I like the corollary that you can salt the oats, which you can get the horse thirsty. I'm trying to get you guys thirsty for diving into InfoSparks a little bit deeper. Okay. So I'm not going to give you any of those local pieces. We're seeing a 24.79% decrease in sold listings across our whole footprint year over year. We're seeing a average price gap, 93.59% decrease. They just added this slide. I didn't vet it, so I am going to go past that one because that doesn't really make sense to me. So InfoSparks, you guys will have an opportunity if Kelvin wants to have a trainer come out and talk about that. Would be glad to have somebody come out and do another lunch and learn. I'll even buy lunch at that point. So,
I've been training this for the past year and no one comes to my training, so I think I need cheap.
I think I can afford pizza and salad. So
And this is not just any pizza, it's pepperoni pizza. Yay.
I'll buy lunch if you guys will have us back out, and if you give us at least as much of the crowd as this. So hopefully you guys have an understanding. I think it's so important. I just bought and sold a house over the last month and a half. I'm crazy. I think part of my job as the CEO of CRMLS is to force myself through this process. And I do it every 2.5 years, much to the chagrin of my family. But I think it's important that I go through the process and I see, the elements of what consumers are facing, see the elements of what brokers and agents are facing in the marketplace. I'm pleased that it is far easier now than it was when I first started at CRMLS in 2005. Digital signatures, the ability to do all of the things remotely. I was blown away when I walked into my new house and there was no appraisal required to close the loan. That was a new one for me, as well. I've been involved in the discussions about desktop appraisals and all the stuff that they're doing with that automation. So, it was just always good to understand what's going on from that standpoint. So you guys, this is a statistic that I just don't think most people realize. How many people in this room have been doing real estate for more than 15 years? Do you guys recognize that 60% of the membership of all of CRMLS has never faced a down market? They didn't go through 2007. They didn't go through 2008. So when you guys are sitting across the table from a seasoned person, or you're sitting across the table from somebody who's newer in the business, recognize that there's a different level of experience in going through some of the market conditions that we're going through. So it is an interesting dynamic to understand and get your arms around as you do that. It was very evident in the two different transactions that the person who represented me, somebody I've known forever, has gone through 40 years of market downturns and upturns and everything from that standpoint. So, there was a different expectation than, the agents who walked into the house that I sold and really didn't understand a lot of, some of the dynamics of homeowners associations and pieces along those lines. All of that being said, avail yourselves of education. Those of you who've been in the business more than 15 years, raise your hands again.
More than 50?
More than 15. For those of you who are not raising your hands, seek these people out. because they are a wealth of information. They've gone through things that you guys are just beginning to go through, and they're an important piece of your education process. So avail yourselves of them. So one of the next things I want to talk about, I'll try to transition to that, into what tools and additional features within CRMLS are agents most utilizing and why. Unfortunately, InfoSparks is not on this list, but I'm hoping to get it there so you guys have a better idea. Obviously, Matrix, I don't have this on there, but Matrix is the number one most viewed thing within our platform. About 93%, I don't know what the other 7% are doing. They're just paying for services and not going into the MLS, but 93% of you are logging in more than 5 times a month into the Matrix system. So those are pretty big numbers, but obviously, to understand where the market is, you guys are going into there long periods of time. Total logins into Realist Tax are really high as well. We have about 70% of our membership that go in there. Another platform that you guys are, I'll talk about a little bit later when we go into some of the philosophies from CRMLS, but the whole tax piece and how you guys look at information from a property standpoint is going to change, okay? For those of you guys who've been in the business for 15 years, change has been a constant, yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, technology. I remember presenting one time and somebody, got up and said, I've been doing this for 30 years. Can you guys quit changing things? And I said, I would love to, but the problem is technology moves so quickly that the consumer has a different expectation of you guys than they did in, the year 2000, completely different expectation. And so in order to better service you guys and give you guys the products and services that you need, we are going to be changing, and we're going to be changing significantly. There are governmental pressures that are going to force you guys to change pretty significantly as well. But it's pretty understandable why these applications are so heavily used. Obviously, the top uses are typically those elements of getting access on your cell phone to information. CRMLS, there's a CRMLS app. There is a HomeSnap app, and there is an MLS Touch app. And so you guys can see, we're close to 200,000 logins on a monthly basis out of that. We have 100,000 members, 103,000 members at CRMLS. So recognize that there's a lot of people accessing all of these services, and we've got to be really sensitive to that piece. That being said, there are new benefits that are coming to you guys. As I said, the consumers are expecting more out of you. The ability for you guys to get more information at your fingertips is something that you guys really need to kind of embrace. And we are full proponents of training as much as we possibly can within the CRMLS system. I have 7 full-time trainers. Their job is to get out in front of you. If you guys need one-on-one training, we'll provide that to you. In a group environment, we'll provide that to you. As long as I can get 15 people in front of a trainer, I'll put them anywhere. So that is, I think, a real important thing. The one-on-one trainings are typically, they're not typically, but they're done via Zoom and giving you guys very in-depth information on a platform for you guys. So, but there are a lot of new things coming up within the CRMLS system, a lot. Wall Street discovered brokers and agents pocketbooks about 5 years ago and started putting extensive amounts of money into what we call property technology, prop tech. And so there has been an expanded offering of services across the board over the last 5 years that have really accelerated what you guys have offered out to you pretty significantly. And we at the CRMLS level, we really need to do as much as we possibly can to put some of those pieces and offerings in front of you. And I'm going to talk about some of those things as we move forward. Our philosophy has changed over that 5 years. As Wall Street got heavily involved in 2021, Wall Street put north of $25 billion into just technology servicing brokers and agents. That's a significant amount of investment on their side. But it also meant that a lot of the services that we were providing were being bought by outside companies. And there is one vendor that CRMLS had in 2017 that has not been bought as I sit here today in 2023 by an outside company. And we've heard loud and clear that some of those technology pieces, you guys did not feel comfortable if you knew about it, about who bought them. And so we had one specific product that we went from 48% usage within the MLS platform down to 11% over a course of a month, because there was a complete uncomfortability with who ended up buying that platform. And so we've had to get our arms around providing technology out to brokers and agents in an environment where you're very competitive with each other, but you do not want the technology that we're providing to be owned by people that you may not feel comfortable with. And so that has been a very real change in purpose on the CRMLS side. The board of directors of CRMLS 5 years ago decided that we were going to, consume more of technology that we developed ourselves. And so that is a transition. Obviously, there's certain things that I can't do because I can't spend the money that some of these companies spend against technology. But some of the key pieces of entry into the MLS, some of the key technologies, the stat programs, those things we do need to get our arms around and provide directly to you. So there's not that risk of it being sold, taken away, just being put into a situation where you don't feel comfortable with it. So that's kind of where we're at with that. The first of these products that we've been developing is called RE Center Hub, and RE Center Hub will be coming out in the July timeframe. Your Clarity dashboard with its spaghetti bowl of icons that you don't really have the ability right now to organize in a way that makes sense for you will be going away. And RE Center Hub, you guys have access to it right now. And I'll tell you to go in and look at it. I guarantee you, Kelvin, that only 5 or 6 of them will actually look at it. It is in your dashboard right now. And so you guys can take a look at it and set it up the way that you want to see it. But it's really more of a customizable way. Unfortunately, the underlying company that provides our current dashboard was bought out 2 years ago. And I'm not really sure where they're going to be sold over the next 6 to 8 months. The company that bought them basically said at the time that they were going to turn them around in 2 years and they'll probably tear them apart and sell off bits and pieces. That typically doesn't work real well, to consumers of technology. So this is one of those pieces that we focused on delivering first and foremost. You guys are going to see a much more robust delivery of data, much more robust delivery of services. All of the compliance stuff that you see is all going to be centered in RE Center Hub. So you as a broker, you're going to be able to go in and look at your whole entire office and everything that is happening in that office, both statistically and from the interaction with the multiple listing service. So even down to the level of how many times your members log into all of our different systems. So you're going to get access to every, well, and not in a big brother type way, but in a way that it helps you to have an understanding of, I've done all these classes on these products and there's just not that much interest on it. That's some of the things that we look at on a regular basis. We're there to deliver more information as much as we possibly can. And I'll get into some things that'll probably make people uncomfortable. And you guys will probably argue with each other as much as you argue with me, but I'm going to throw some ideas out to you guys. And as I said, I'm not your broker. And I'm just here at the MLS, curating ideas that are coming out and trying to find better ways of servicing you guys. There is one word that real estate will have smacked in its face over the next 5 years. One word, it will be transparency. The government does not believe you're transparent enough. And so we've got to get our arms around all of those different pieces. RE Center Hub is going to be that go-to piece for you guys to take a look at real-time market statistics, everything that you guys do from a brokerage level and from an agent level, managing things. All of your syndication is going to be done in that one place. Hopefully it's going to be a much more elegant design than I said, the spaghetti bowl that you guys are seeing now. And you guys are going to be able to personalize the whole entire thing. The only icons that'll show up are the ones that you use all the time and the ones that you want to see there. Obviously, you're still going to be able to go in and see everything, but front and center, we know you guys want to get in and get out. The vast majority of the entrance into Matrix are less than 5 minutes in duration. because you guys get in, you do a search, you print something out, you send an email, do whatever it is that you do, and then you're out. Probably some of you guys are in 20, 30 times a day, but that's basically what we're seeing. So we're trying to make that process a lot easier for you guys across the board. One of the other products that has come out that we've released is a product called Nestfully. Nestfully.com is up and running. CRMLS was, for a long period of time, had a public-facing website called Home Seekers. And we had between 500 to 750,000 unique visitors to Home Seekers on a monthly basis. We decided that we were going to partner with other MLSs across the country and send a product out to you guys called HomeSnap. You guys have seen the app. That's still available to you guys. But HomeSnap, the company, was bought by CoStar. How many of you guys do residential or do commercial? Anybody do commercial in here? You know how much you pay CoStar for their services. CoStar is a different company, different sensibilities about transacting real estate. And so they're killing off HomeSnap, the broker public portal, which we were a part of. So we had to provide something new to provide at least an option for you guys to not have to send your clients to all the different portals out there. Nestfully is there. It is a month old. We are heavily working on getting the apps. The apps are actually in the App Store right now. We'd love to have some feedback on them. We're going to take about 6 months until we get to a position where we feel comfortable with all of those tools that are going out there. Okay. It is very much, will be lead generation. We're doing as much as we possibly can to do SEO to get it up on the leaderboards when it comes to the portals. There is no charge to our membership. I always get asked, I'm getting leads out of the site. How much are you guys charging for the leads? We're not going to charge anything for that. We think it's part of the MLS's service to help you guys connect to consumers in different ways. That is a platform that we're looking forward. We are partnered with, says Bright MLS. We're partnered with five other MLSs across the country right now, and we'll be pushing those pieces out to you guys. So pay attention to the news updates that we send out to you guys, and you'll find more information as those pieces directly go out the door. The other thing you guys have been hearing a lot about is artificial intelligence. You guys have no idea what's coming with artificial intelligence, society-wide or in real estate. We are invested in a company called StyleDod. They started out as more of a staging company and have morphed more into some of the traditional AI functionalities. I'm going to bring up a product a little bit later called Perchwell, and Perchwell is a new matrix, new front-end interface that we're going to be rolling out. Some of the things that AI can do for you as an agent is really decreasing the amount of work that you have to do. And some of those initial phases for CRMLS to decrease your work is that we want you guys to upload your photos into the multiple listing service to do a listing input. And AI is going to look at all those photos and fill out the listing input for you. I'm consuming floor plans through relationships with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and all of the servicers, mortgage servicers. AI can tell you which room in a house a photo was taken. They can tell you the dimensions of that room. They can tell you what appliances are in that room. They can tell you what countertops are in that room. My goal, longer term over the next year and a half, have you guys upload the photos, and all you're going to really have to do is fill out a property description. If you're smart enough to go to ChatGPT, just be careful with ChatGPT right now, because there are some cool things that are coming out of it. There's some really uncool things coming out of it. So, but your major responsibilities will be just filling in the property description and the agent remarks. So that's my goal long term, to make that easier on you. You guys don't get paid to data input into a multiple listing service. And the long-term goal is that you input into one place and it goes to all of the places that you need. We're working with your outside providers, the appraisers, everybody to provide that information out to where there's not multiple layers of input for you guys. REimagineHome.ai, really cool site. It's their first offering out there. Basically what they do is they consume all of the MLS photos, they strip all of the furniture out of it, and they allow you to put whatever furniture you want. 2.0 of this will be part of the portals. Your clients will go in, they'll upload their current furniture, pictures of their current house, and it will move their current furniture into whatever new house that they want to be in. Some cool things from that standpoint. Obviously, trying to engage the consumer at different levels. So that is available to you guys right now. reimaginehome.ai. You guys can go in and play with it. I turned it over to my daughter and she spent 4 hours, not because it isn't easy, but she was redesigning backyards for probably 2 to 3 hours of that time. It's a cool tool. I do love going in and playing with it myself. Those are some of the things you're going to see integrated into the systems at CRMLS over the next 18 months.
This is it now?
It's not in our systems now, but it is available for you guys to play with right now. There is a professional
Free, or is
version.
it,
It's free right now.
included benefits? Sorry.
So recognize that if for the consumer, it most likely always will be free. But if brokers and agents are going to go in and stage photos, there's value to that. I mean, it's not going to be a huge cost to you guys, but for $29 a month to allow you to do whatever you want with photos, I think, and not have them, there's, a watermark on it. The consumer is always going to go in and be able to play, but there's some value in that to you guys as they move along. So their problem is that they've done no advertising of this whatsoever. A couple of TikTok influencers, if you don't think those people have influence, did videos. They found the reimaginehome.ai website, did some videos on it. They have 1 million users over a course of 2 months now that they've not paid for, but it's also expensive. They've retouched over 10 million photos. So they have all of the CRMLS photos in there. You have the ability to upload them, but I think some cool things. You guys just need to know that AI is coming in some very different ways. Perchwell, I talked about this. This is a new platform that we're offering. We just are in beta right now with the CRMLS data. Get your minds around this concept of property centricity. It's a big term, but you guys go into the MLS now. And if you want to know the tax information, you click on Real List. It takes some time to pull Real List up. You got to learn the interface to that. If you want the mortgage information, if you want if there's Melrose or if there's, any additional taxes, all of that is in multiple different places. And if you guys want to do a CMA, most likely you're pulling from multiple different places to get that. Perchwell will be a property-centric model that all of that data is available in one place, okay? When you look up a property, all of the tax information, all of the mortgage information, all of the community information, we're buying information from anybody we possibly can to give you guys as much of an idea as we possibly can about what's going on with that property. We've got some ideas that the brokerage community loves or hates. And some of those things have to do with, a property specifically. We've been asked the question, if there's been disclosures that have been filled out about a property, shouldn't that be attached to the property? And shouldn't brokers and agents have access to that information? What about appraisals? What about past appraisals and the past photos and all the information on that? Some of you I can see are getting a little bit uncomfortable, but when I told you guys that transparency is going to be the word of the day, a lot of brokers would rather have something disclosed on the MLS than having to be disclosed in a lawsuit. And there's a lot of lawsuits occurring right now as we're coming out of a very hot market and entering into a slower one. We're seeing a direct increase in lawsuits on some of the things that should have been disclosed, maybe should have been disclosed. And it's not necessarily an agent's fault. I'm getting complaints from brokers saying, I don't have an issue with my current transaction. It was something that was disclosed to the seller in their prior transaction that they failed to disclose going into the next transaction. So just recognize that we're looking at ways to decrease liability and to increase transparency. Obviously, there's some major things to be thought through and who can access this and how they can access it. How does it affect an appraisal? We have a lot of appraisers who also have real estate licenses and they join the MLS as real estate, people and utilize that for their appraisal. Obviously, there's some big things that we got to get our arms around, but you guys are being pushed for more transparency. And in today's age, I would rather have the multiple listing service as part of this cooperative, talk about how we can increase that transparency amongst each other, than let these outside companies do it to you. Okay? I'll answer any questions on that side as we move along. But Perchwell is going to be that first platform that brings all of those elements in. I would love to provide at the brokerage level, we have an offer management platform that obviously I would like better usage on it, but there's reasons for that. But I have velocity information, what I call velocity information. You guys get an idea of what goes active. You guys get an idea of what goes pending. You guys really don't know what happens in between the time a property goes active and the time it goes pending. What if we could get you information to a zip code level of how many offers are being submitted to houses within that zip code area? How many lockbox openings? How many different showings are occurring and all of those things? Those are all elements that we can provide you statistically that would be important. One of the things that I think was a huge hole in my selling experience, my broker couldn't tell me how the other houses in the area were doing. Other than, well, they had an open house and I was told that they had a lot of people come through. Well, how many offers did they have? How many showings does it take today to close a property? How many offers? Those are some of the things that we're looking at to provide more information to you guys as we move along. Perchwell will be the first piece of that. The other piece that we've been asked about is it was video. Yeah. Yeah.
Not just for residential.
In as much as I can get that information, we don't. We do, but there's not a whole lot of usage on the commercial side because it's just a different animal.
Yes.
It's just a different animal. And so let me conquer the real estate or the residential animal before I even start thinking about what it would take. I had the question asked to me yesterday of why don't we require commercial properties to be input into the MLS? And the problem is that when somebody doesn't put a residential property into the MLS, 50 of you call me the first time a sign goes up. Somebody doesn't input something into the commercial side of things, I don't know. I really don't know about it. And there's just a lot of things that go into that. So it's a completely different animal. If I could, I would. But we're gonna have to jump some of the hurdles in residential before we even get to discussion about commercial. So
Does CRMLS have any intentions to try to compete with CoStar?
if I could, yes.
Consider monopoly over the full data.
Yeah, if I could, yes. That would be the long-term goal. Obviously, property centricity is going to go a long ways towards that. So even though I don't have maybe the listing bench on the commercial side that I do on the residential side, the property information will be there completely for the commercial side. So in as much as you're going to get all of the property information on the residential side, you're going to get it on the commercial side. So those pieces will help you. Welcome, Matt. So video platform, and I know I'm giving you guys a lot of information. I hope I'm not putting the vast majority of you guys asleep, but there is so much going on. I'll scare you at the end, so hopefully that'll wake some of you guys up. Well, I'll legally scare you at the end. So Welcome Matt is a cool new platform that is coming out attached into Matrix. One of the requests we got is that I don't want to host video. I don't want to pay these companies to host my video. I'm paying an extra, heck of a lot of money to do that. I'd like to do the videos myself. Welcome Matt is going to give you the ability to upload videos into Matrix as part of the ad edit functionality. And it will host them for you, both in a branded and a non-branded version, and give you guys the ability to manage your video content in a much more richer way. They will actually do versioning for you to where you on your websites, it will, but via AI, will separate your videos out into logical segments. It will actually give you 6 high-res photos for every second of video that you upload. So all of those things can be utilized in your marketing materials. And we're looking forward to getting that out in the July timeframe as well. A lot of stuff coming down the road. Local Logic, this is part of the element of us giving you more information at your fingertips. Local Logic is a company that basically derives some local intelligence about communities, about potentially different tracts and housing development areas, a lot of home and service information along those lines. That is a little bit longer term, but towards the end of the year, we'll have Local Logic introduced to you guys primarily first through Perchwell, and we'll go from there. We'd really love at some point, if you guys are interested in some of the newer technologies, getting Perchwell out here with all of the integrations that we're talking about. I think you guys will be impressed with what they've done. As an entrepreneur, what tips do you have for agents seeking to improve for their own protection? This is where I
Production.
production.
This is protection.
This is where, once again, I'm going to tell you I'm not your broker. I don't even play one on TV. I am just giving you guys some basic opinions about what's going on from a legal standpoint. How many of you guys know about the lawsuits?
Which one?
Some of
I
them,
know
yeah,
about
which
some.
one?
NAR, the National Association of Realtors, is Sylvia said, the father organization to
Yes.
all of the organized real estate people. They've been sued 13 times over the last 4 years. 13 times. 7 of those have to do with the way you guys are paid. Okay? Half of them
I
are
didn't hear you. Half of them are,
on how you were paid.
how we're paid?
Commissions.
1099.
Who sued them?
No, that's not the big thing. I'll go through it.
Okay.
I'll go through it. So 7 of those lawsuits are what are called commission lawsuits. And half of them claim that buyers are paying too much. And half of them are claiming that sellers are paying too much. How are sellers paying too much? Well, there's an offer of compensation in the MLS. So they're suing because their sellers feel that they paid for the buyer's agent's commission and therefore overpaid by, in one of the lawsuits, $13 billion over the last 5 years. That's what they're looking for. And it's an antitrust lawsuit. So in an antitrust lawsuit, they have this unique term called trebling the damages. So you're looking at potentially if NAR were to lose this lawsuit, there would be $39 billion owed to these plaintiffs. You guys are part of the Anywhere real estate system. Anywhere real estate is one of those that's been sued. So recognize that Keller Williams, Anywhere, Remax, all of the major franchisors have been sued as part of this with AI. CRMLS is not a part of any of these lawsuits. On the buy side, they're claiming that because buyers don't get to negotiate what their agents are being paid, that they are overpaying by hundreds of millions of dollars. So both of them can't be right, but recognize that NAR is fighting these lawsuits as we move along. The Department of Justice has gotten involved. And I know this is a little bit of a corollary to the question I was asking you get asked about, but I do want to talk about some of the things that you guys need to wrap your arms around potentially in the future. At least, remember, I'm not your broker, but at least get your minds open to some of these things coming down. So the Department of Justice sued the National Association of Realtors as well. And part of that process, it is the Department of Justice's opinion that the real estate brokerage industry has been defrauding the American public. And I'm using their words because these are things that they've said in public filings, in lawsuits. Defrauding the American public of tens of billions of dollars a year in commissions. That is the Department of Justice's opinion. In all 13 of the lawsuits, the Department of Justice has filed what's called an amicus brief, which is a friend of the court, on behalf of all of the plaintiffs opposing NAR and all of the franchises. So they're very definitely focused on how you guys get paid. And what do they want? What change do they want to see? The change that they want to see is that there is no offer of compensation in the MLS. And so therefore, sellers get paid directly by the selling brokerage office, and buyers agents get paid directly by the buyers. It is, some people like it, some people, let me say, before I scare people too much, you guys recognize that in the 80s, that's the way this was. I know that I don't have people that have been in this business for an extended period of time, but there used to be no offer of compensation in the multiple listing service. It had to be negotiated outside of the multiple listing service. There was a rule in 1994 that came into play at the NAR level where it was made mandatory. But before that, real estate operated. And this is not an extinction level event. You guys have always embraced change. This is a big change, but you guys will be able to embrace those pieces of change. If it happens, how much time do you guys have? Well, the first of the cases, unfortunately, is a jury trial. And it is being held in November of this year, called the Burnett case. And part of that Burnett case is that the judge has an injunction on his table that if the plaintiffs win, NAR no longer can require multiple listing services to have compensation in units. Obviously, a lot's got to change. Obviously, the only way that most buyers are getting into houses these days is that the commission is rolled into the loan value. And so there's going to have to be some concerted efforts if all of this occurs. But potentially in the next year, if the lawsuit goes badly, you guys could be forced in looking at some of these changes. So CAR put out new forms in December. And some of them you guys probably have not paid one bit of attention to. I'm going to give you guys at least one man's opinion of the ones that you should pay attention to. Okay? There are three of them. The ABCD form, I don't know who came up with the name of this form, but it's a great name because nobody's ever going to forget the ABCD form. The ABCD form is the anticipated broker compensation disclosure. I would recommend that you guys start filling that out now when you're taking buyers in. Because what did I say is the one term that you guys are going to have to be concerned with? Transparency. And so what this form does is it is being completely transparent to your buyers of what your compensation would be on each one of the properties that you're showing them. I don't come up with these rules. I don't come up with these changes. I'm just telling you these are some of the things that are potentially going to have to come down the road. I would recommend that you use it now, just from a liability standpoint. There is an ability within the matrix system right now to print out a report. The ABCD form is a pain in the butt to fill out because you have to fill out the address and then the compensation on each property that you send them. But what you can do is you can fill out one master form and just attach the form that comes out of the matrix platform with the selling office compensation on it. That fulfills your obligation. Not your broker. I'm not telling you guys have to do this, but I would recommend that you take a look at that. There's a question. Yeah.
Isn't it already on multiple business services?
Clear cooperation policy, it is publicly broadcasted how much the buyer gets.
Yeah,
It is not on the customer facing report yet. You're going to be putting it there. It's going to, Rich and Sylvia have been involved in this. It's going to be put on our customer facing reports, but right now, you guys need to fill this form out. You guys have the right to put it on your IDX websites, but you don't have the obligation to do so. and there's no obligation to fill this form out. But my recommendation to you guys is take a look at it. At least, you know, in conjunction with what Kelvin would want you guys to do, it does decrease some of the liability in the lawsuits as we move forward. Yes.
Is that the commission that you're talking about, the general commission that the seller's agent or the listing is giving to the buyer's agent,
Correct.
or is what?
So the only thing, there's a field in the MLS called SO compensation, selling office compensation. That's the figure that you need for the split. Okay? Okay. Buyer broker representation agreements. Such a warm, fuzzy subject. I don't know where you fall with it. Some brokerage offices require it. Some states require a representation agreement before anybody can be paid out of escrow. California is not one of those states. But if compensation is not a guaranteed offer in the multiple listing service, you guys probably need to get your arms around how I make sure that I'm doing all this work for a buyer and they don't just walk to the listing agent. You already have that risk, but you know, you need to kind of think through that process. That if there's what's called procuring cause. You know, procuring cause will go away. Procuring cause basically states that, you know, you've done all this work and you're guaranteed a commission based off of what was published in the multiple listing service. There's potentially not going to be anything published in the multiple listing service. So you need to, I know, it's hugging a porcupine, but you guys need to get your arms around potentially some of those changes.
Kelly Richardson had talked a little bit about that as well. So the talk is heavy about this topic.
There was a push at the CAR level. It didn't go very far about going to the state legislature and requiring buyers brokerages to have a representation agreement prior to being paid out of escrow. That didn't go anywhere.
Well, what I see here and this good thing I see about that is I'm already encouraging my buyers to sign an agreement only because it takes away my responsibility to not show them a property because they don't want to pay me, which is a very hard position to be in. You're sending them properties, you're trying to send them properties where at least you feel like you're getting paid fairly. But if they bring you another property, now what do you do? It's a 1% commission to you or 1.5% commission. So, I mean, I've already told my buyers that I don't work for that. If you want to see that property and you're working with me, then you're going to have to make a gap between what their commission is and what the commission that I expect to get is if you want to work with them.
Correct, and I'd like to add to that, I think it's more the 15-year plus realtors that are feeling confident to do that. Because Mark and I started doing that with our 2 new buyers, and they filled it out with no problem. So this is what some sellers will pay, but this is what I'm worth, and this is what I charge. Are you okay with that? And this is the form that you, oh, no problem, I signed it right. But if we're transparent and we're confident in sharing that with them, they're gonna see your work. But if you're working with the buyers that are straying here and there and are saying, I'm working with my sister, my brother, my uncle, whoever, you know, my dog, then you know what? Then you're not holding up your value.
Well, it allows you to negotiate on a different level for the buyer
Correct.
than it does when the seller is paying you and you're feeling like they want to do this, they don't want to do that, they don't want to do that. Well, if they're not paying you, you feel freer to say, no, you will fix this and you will do that if you want this deal.
Yeah.
You know,
So we need to
So-
show more value as a buyer's agent, right?
I think it's, yeah.
I'd like to ask you a question.
So before you ask the question, you know, CRMLS is working on technology with a company that as a buyer's agent, it'll actually track everything that you do. I know it's a little bit big brotherish and some people get, a little bit weirded out by it, but it actually installs on your cell phone. It knows when you go to a property that you're showing it. It knows when, you know, you tell it that you're working on a contract and it tracks all of the hours. So this has been done in beta across a couple of very large teams and offices. The one thing that they found out, which was, I think, going to be beneficial to these buy-side lawsuits, is that most buyers agents are underpaid. Believe it or not, when you calculate all the stuff that you guys do, and they've calculated 144 different steps. So those are some of the things you guys may be seeing coming out of us. I can't promise you on that side, but those are some of the things that you're going to have to provide value on. And in order to get somebody to sign a buyer broker representation agreement, having all this documentation of everything that you do, all the steps that are required to go through and sell a property, I think it'll be big for you guys. I'm sorry, I'm totally ignoring the people on camera, but
No problem. But to expand before you ask your question, if you're gonna build that big brother, the only way I would see it and use it, if it has a value component, if you're gonna track the hours and the commute, all this stuff, have a tax reporting tool to say how much I've commuted miles, business miles, and how much expenses I maybe have a tool where
it will have a tool that will export that to whatever you're doing on the tax side.
reporting at the end
Yep.
of the year.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, complete aggregation of everything that you're doing. Some people don't want to be tracked that much, but especially if you're focusing on buyers, providing that value chain out to them will be important. Sylvia.
Right, I'm gonna comment on something first. Thank you, Kelvin. I know, I heard Jerry talking about this, and I know many of you experienced this, but it's so undervalued, the time that we actually spend with a potential buyer. As you're nurturing the relationship, it could be from 1 year to 2 years, depending on the buyer, if you have an A, B, or C category buyer. But I'll give you an example, going over to Victorville, showing 15 properties, writing offers on all 15 properties, and you vet every single one of them before you go out that morning. Are they still available? Oh, don't call us, don't bother us, don't blah, blah, blah on the MLS because the MLS is updated. And then you submit your offer, says, well, we went into escrow the night before, and how do we state our value other than report violation to CRMLS? That's just something that I know that we're all, sharing our frustration because it's real. I mean, we're working with, us seasoned agents are working with, not just regard to any part-time agents, but some part-time agents that are not educating themselves enough to be here. Like you said, you can put the water out there, but to get the horse to drink the water. So that's one part. But I'm going to turn this around over to you and put you on the spotlight, Art, and ask you. You just sold your home and bought a home. What value do you see in a buyer's agent yourself? You mentioned that your agent didn't know.
No, not my agent, the other agent on the other side.
Didn't know this or that about the area and how many open houses or how many people do you need to bring in order to get it sold. What value can you share to our crowd here as a buyer agent, especially for someone of your caliber, that would earn your business?
I would never transact real estate by myself. I know the forms better than probably a lot of you in this room. My agent was always surprised that, she would send me over a DocuSign and she would get it back literally less than a minute later because I know what areas I wanted to check. I know what areas that were important. The rest of it is just legal language. It's fluff. It's to cover your butts. That's what it's there for. So, I would never do it because there's such localized knowledge. I mean, just look at the area that you guys service here in Temple City and in Arcadia. It always cracks me up to see a tear down with one wall standing. And, if you don't know a local marketplace, you're not going to be of much value. Prior transaction that I was in, I walked out. My wife absolutely loved the property. She wanted to put an offer in on it. My agent walked up and said, Art, come here. And we went up, out to the back, and something that I would not even have had, any idea about, but there was some slope slippage on the back side, where the pool was. And she said, that's just something that in my experience, you're going to need somebody to come out and do a geological survey of this hillside, and there's potential problems there. For somebody like myself, I probably would have put an offer in on that place and, could have And I'll tell you, 8 years later, that slope slipped and they lost the pool in the backyard. So I would have been, stuck with that. There are things that even at my level that I'm not going to walk up to a house and recognize. So I'd never do it on them. I'd never do it on them. You guys are worth your weight in gold. And just dealing with the frustration that you guys have to deal with and banging your heads against walls, pulling up 15 properties, knowing that probably 5 of those have already been sold and having to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will pay you your weight in gold to do that for me. That's always been my opinion. I never want to do that on that because this is not just signing forms. This is not just knowing the legalities of what's going on and even the negotiating you guys do is at a level that from my standpoint I'm not going to be as knowledgeable in a local marketplace as you guys are. So that's what I would say to that. Last form I want to tell you about. I want you to stay away from it. You guys aren't. I don't know if you guys are looking through the new RPA and making sure there is a new checkbox in the RPA that basically says that you've signed an SPBB, a seller payment to the buyer broker. Do not check it just because it's a nice new shiny box. Do not check it. The seller payment for buyer's broker is only if the buyer's broker is going to be paid directly outside of the MLS, some commission amount. That is the only time it's going to be signed. You need to deal with Kelvin on those issues. I would make sure because I've done this speech in front of brokerages and I've heard come back that, oh yeah, we found tens of these RPAs that had the box checked and we had to do some mitigation on that side. So do not check the box that you filled out an SPBB and don't use the SPBB. The SPBB may become important down the road if commission is out of the MLS, but just stay away from those checkboxes in that form for right now, unless there's a specific reason that you'd have to do that. And that form's there for that reason. Okay. I know I'm going long. Statewide MLS. It is a great concept. CRMLS's board of directors is a firm believer that there should be no boundaries to people conducting real estate. You guys are born in a world, recognize when I took over in 2005, there were 15 MLSs in Southern California. They really didn't share data. And so if you wanted to sell properties in Orange County, you had to go down and join SoCal MLS. If you wanted to sell properties in Pasadena, you had to go join Pasadena. If you wanted to sell them in Van Nuys, you had to go join Southland Regional. It's a different world now. You guys have access to so much more. And at the end of the day, it's not about the MLS. It's not about the local associations. It's not about giving them revenue streams. It's about giving you guys the ability to service your customers and giving you guys the ability to put as much information in front of them as possible. And that's the goal within the CRMLS system, is to have no borders. And it doesn't really matter if it's in Northern California or Southern California. An MLS should never tell a broker how to conduct their business. That's a brokerage level decision, not an MLS or an association level decision. So we're firm believers that as much information as we can possibly get out there will be better. That being said, politics always play into this. I'm sorry? Oh, your phone was talking to me.
It says my matrix.
I heard my matrix and I'm like, yeah, it's in your matrix. All the information's in your matrix. Exactly. So that's really the long-term goal, but politics are stopping. We have about 70% of the listing content in the state of California is available to you guys, either within the Matrix platform or through a link through. We have arrangements with companies outside of California and Louisiana. Mexico is available to you guys as well. So there's an outside link to Mexican listings. You guys are not licensed to sell property in Mexico, but you can at least refer your clients who are looking for properties down there. So we're a firm believer that there should be no borders for you guys as brokers and agents, and we're doing as much as we possibly can to get you guys there. With that, I think we've had questions along the way, but I don't know how much more time I have, but
Yeah,
I probably-
limited, no rush.
Okay.
Any questions you guys have?
yeah, questions, Rich.
So can you speak to the future of realist tax?
It will be going away.
There you go. Just right.
Boom, flat out. There will be integration into the front end platform, which will, all the information that's available in Realist will be available to you. It's just going to be available to you in the front end platform that you utilize instead of a secondary platform.
The same source?
Most of it, yes. Well, CoreLogic's not playing really nicely at this point. And in all honesty, they're not the most complete database out there. We have gone and aggregated data from 2 different sources to fill in the tax record piece.
What's the timeline on that?
Well, we have another 2 years on the contract, so it's not immediate, but within the next 2 years.
Thanks for answering that so clearly.
Yeah, transparency, not only for you guys, but for me as well.
So, if realist tax goes away, what does it happen?
So
It'll be integrated.
it'll be integrated into Matrix, it'll be integrated into Perkwell, it'll be integrated.
Is going to be-
Everything is gonna be there. It's just not gonna have, you're not gonna have to go to a secondary platform, a different computer system to use it.
He said that even we can check the properties in Mexico. What about all over US?
We're getting there. We have signed data share agreements with Atlanta, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. And it is a belief on our side that we want to get you guys access to all that information. Recognize that it'll be interesting to see how we integrate it, because Matrix doesn't deal well with huge data sets. So we're trying to figure out how to give you guys access to all of that information.
Or, I know they're taking a look at the way we do the compensation. Are they taking a look still on representing both sides, dual representation? Or
That
is
is-
that kind of gone away because
That's kind of cool because of the lawsuits. You know, for those of you guys who don't know, I mean, there was this thought process that there would be a ban on representing the buyer and seller in a deal. That was discussed at the legislature level and is completely cooled off. Completely cooled off. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I hope I made it worthwhile for you. I think only 1 or 2 of you fell asleep. Thankfully, none of you snored, so we're good to go. So thank you guys very much for your opportunity, or the opportunity to speak in front of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Meetings, we had our just finished, but remember, we have Morrison Property Inspection. He's gonna speak for about 10-15 minutes. We are thankful to them for providing this magnificent pizza. We also want to thank Joel for ordering it for us. So, yeah, thank you, everyone. We are gonna take a group photo, Art, before you head out.
Just really
Yeah.
quickly, I'm leaving my slides behind. I know some of you guys were taking pictures. I've left the slides behind, so
Sure.
you guys,
Yeah.
whoever wants it, talk to Kelvin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the knowledge that you provided here is extreme, and we are all very appreciative for that, Art, and your time. So we're gonna get those other 2 on trainings on our
Okay,
master
perfect.
calendar. Okay,
Perfect.
Perfect.
I had the privilege and honor to know Art a little bit more closely too, because as you guys know, I had a little bit of background in the Arcadia Association of Realtors, but I also served for the finance committee of CRMLS. And I had the ability to see how brilliant of a mind and a CEO, entrepreneur, that really a lot of the vision that you see that's to look forward to with the MLS. But it's not just him working behind the scenes. All of us look at the MLS as, oh, they're looking for buyers. No. A lot of us will look at, oh, they're just
I'm willing to pay for it.
they're looking for violations. Oh, they're just trying to get Big Brother. They're just trying to track us. And the decisions are actually not made by Art. It's made by like-minded broker managers, board of directors, people who remain involved in the industry.
Yes.
Those decisions are made by them, how to spend the money, whether we should invest in a new tool or should we take this one away. So just like letting you know that there is a lot of intricacies behind the scenes. There definitely is politics, but usually the discussions that I got to participate with were usually, oh, it's on behalf of the members. It should help them out. It's for them, or how do we reduce the costs and stuff like that. So that's what I was able to contribute and learn from what goes on behind the scenes. I love that experience and getting to know them a little bit closer.
Absolutely.
So thank you all. Morrison Home Inspection, thank you, Art,
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you.
And before we break
Oh, no,
away,
real quick.
yeah, before we break away, I just want to add on to what Kelvin said. I was part of the finance group also, but I was the only female part of a group that was together for so many years. And I came in, I remember what you said, Art, you said you came in to stir up everything because we were interviewing a new financial advisor, which the financial advisor ended up being hired and helped the CRMLS, which was really good. So I recommend any of you at any level to get involved as much as you can so you can be part of these decisions that both Kelvin, myself, and Mark have been privileged to be a part of. So thank you so much. Before you leave, we do want to get a group photo.
Okay.
You're not shy, right? So we can have you, if we can have you over there, and you too, Kelvin, and Jael, Mary. Rich, both of you as well. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Absolutely. Mi casa es su casa.
Gracias, amiga.
Okay, okay, thank you. Can't see you. Oh, I think the flower is here on the way, right? Okay. Okay, 1, 2, let me take a couple. Yeah. Okay, it's always good to have a millennial take photos. We're good? Our heads are all in there? Okay, good, yay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So now don't leave. Art and Kelvin are gonna leave to be meeting.
Yeah, we.
Good to see you. You're looking great.
Thank you.
Say, hello to Sonia, not Sylvia for me. Okay, now, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Chase, not Chase Bank, but Chase. Okay, and Chase is a supervisor for the Morrison Property Inspection Company. And Mackenzie is a field operator, field marketing person. And he's also, a fun fact about Mackenzie is that he is the son of the owners of the company. Okay? So these two wonderful people are so knowledgeable on the field. And they bring this knowledge to us. And I know that as real estate practitioners, you hear this all the time. It's like, we want to not understate another professional because we don't want to perceive a realtor just being another realtor, right? A real estate agent just being another real estate agent. This is not just another inspection company. And I'm going to hand it over to these two professionals to advocate for their company and share with you why you should use them or recommend them or hire them on your next transaction. So, Chase, what's a fun fact about you?
Fun fact about me, I had opportunity to play college baseball when I was in school.
Oh, nice.
Fun fact.
Okay.
Very
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Did you all hear that? Excellent. Excellent. Fun fact about you, Mackenzie.
I'm an Eagle Scout.
Yay. Excellent. Excellent. So see, these are two other human beings that you know and you know very well. I have a fun fact that I want to share about Chase. So I took a selfie with Chase here with the
God.
company. I'm gonna embarrass him. I'm gonna embarrass him. So I get an instant message on Instagram and saying, "Hey, who's the tall guy in the photo?" And then I said, "He's one of our affiliates." So I was uncomfortable, reached out and said, "I'm in a relationship." And I said, "Okay, good." And it was uncomfortable for me because it's one of my field supervisors with Arcadia PD, which she trains Mark and I on in the units out in our volunteer work with the city. So I had to tell her, "Nope, sorry, he's taken." But What I'm saying to you here is that we're all relatable either by face, by knowledge, by fun facts. At the end of the day, chemistry is what brings us all together, right? And I thank you all for being here. So Chase and Mackenzie, it's all yours.
Appreciate Sylvia. for that. I know Sylvia said we're gonna talk for 10-15 minutes. I'm gonna keep it much shorter than that. You guys just sat through a long presentation, but long story short, my name's Chase, my colleague Mackenzie, we're Morris Plus Property Inspections. Our office is over in Glendora, so just down the 210 from you guys. We've been servicing this area and really Southern California since about 2007, long before I even joined the company, and Mackenzie as well too. We have multiple locations from Ventura County down to San Diego. We cover Victorville, High Desert, really anywhere in SoCal we cover. If you guys have referral agents up north into Sacramento, San Francisco area, we also have locations up there as well. Location that me and Mackenzie represent, excuse me, is the corporate headquarters and the original location that's been around since 2007. We have a team of about 10 inspectors that work for us. During the busier months, that could go all the way up to 15, 20 inspectors to keep up with demand. Long story short, we try to offer as many services as you guys need as agents to represent your buyers, even sellers for pre-listing inspections if you go that route. But outside of the just residential home inspection, we offer sewer scopes, level 2 chimney inspections, thermal enhancements. On top of that, pool and spa inspections. We can do outbuildings and sheds. We do commercial, both light industrial and multifamily properties. The benefit of having a larger team is if you guys have larger estates, larger commercial properties, we could go bring out 3, 4 guys, 5 guys. We just did a 30,000 square foot estate somewhere in LA a couple weeks back. We brought out the entire team to knock that out in, I think, about 2.5, 3 hours, right? Rather than sitting around or having to be a multi-day type inspection for a lot of the smaller companies out there. Outside of that, we just partnered with an in-house termite pest partner called Bugnex. They do all of our pest inspections for us if you guys are in need of that. Complimentary inspections, unless you're having them drive out to maybe Palm Springs or somewhere way out deep distance-wise. There's no charge for those inspections. And if there happens to be a charge because of travel distance, that gets credited back in repairs if you guys go with them to use our team of contractors. But outside of that, like I mentioned, we have multiple locations. And so the benefit with us is we're all centrally trained as well too. Doesn't matter what location you call from, they've been trained by our corporate headquarters training staff. So you get a repetitive level of work and level of service for you guys. And so for the reason you guys call us, we can't handle the work because we're busy. We have someone here locally that could take on the work for you if you like working with Morrison and like the way that we structure our reports and go about our business. The biggest thing for home inspectors that we get, I think, a bad picture painted on us is the label of alarmist, right? Our goal on the on-site of a property, we love when your guys' clients are there for inspections because we're able to have a conversation with them up front prior to the inspection starting, laying out exactly what we're going to be doing on-site at the property, from inspecting the roof all the way through the house and the foundation exteriors. During the inspection, if something prominent pops up, we could drag them with us to the spot, exactly show them what we're looking at, explain it to them in detail. That way there's no questions when you're just reading a report. I know the reports can get scary because you're just looking at a still photo. You don't know where on the property may be at. We try to be as useful as we can while there and spend the time together on site at the property. And of course, at the end of the inspection, to come full circle, we do a summary overview that allows us just to highlight the main summary points of the finding. And our inspectors are available post-inspection, answer questions you guys may have on the report if there are any. But outside of that, that's kind of our spiel. I want to try to keep it short for you guys, but if you guys have any questions, happy to take them now. Our contact information I put over there on the side table, brochure, notepad, or excuse me, mouse pads if you guys want one, feel free to take one, as well as info on our pest partners.
I've got a question.
Absolutely.
You stated something about a pre-listing inspection.
Mhm.
Is that any difference than when we're in escrow and they ask for an inspection?
In terms of the process of the inspection, it's all the same. So we're going to go through and inspect the home for your seller if they're interested in it. This is because it's not, to be completely transparent, not the most popular thing that people do, right? A lot of times, if you're selling it, leave it to the buyer to go to call the inspection, right, and figure out the things wrong with the home. But sometimes, and what I've come to learn is some agents who do a lot of listings like to get an inspection of prior, because things that pop up during the escrow period that may either delay escrow, may cause them to fall out of escrow, could have been otherwise resolved prior to even listing the home. But in terms of the type of the level of inspection that's done or type of inspection, it's all the same.
Awesome.
We start around the $425 mark.
As a pre-listing inspection.
Correct. Correct. Same. We'll go down to the 300s if we're doing small condos or smaller unit type properties. But in terms of standard single family, about 1,500, 2,000 square feet, you should expect anywhere from $425 to $500. It also depends on what area you're working in. If we're working on a 100-year-old home in Pasadena, it's gonna be a little different than a new build out in Rancho. And so just depending on square footage, age of the home, dictates the price of the property.
I have a question. Typically on inspection, what is the time period of a general inspection?
A general inspection, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. In terms of availability on our end, we're typically able to get out there within 3 days of you guys calling us. It could be the very next day, depending on just what we have going on. Sometimes the busier months, obviously, the work gets backed up. But in general, we're pretty available.
Yeah. I just want to say, my main problem with property inspections and with property inspection companies.
Yep.
And this isn't a jab at you guys.
No, go for it.
It's a jab at the industry.
Yeah.
Overall. And that is that most of you guys are not licensed contractors. So you come in and you take the easy way out a lot of times. By the easy way out, what I mean is, we don't like the way this looks, you better get an inspection by a person
Yep.
who knows what this is.
Yep.
Qualified, yeah.
But we're already paying you
Sure.
$450 to give us an inspection.
Mhm.
I don't want to have a plumbing inspection, a roof inspection, and 5 different inspections because you guys don't want to take a stand.
Right.
Absolutely. No, that's a great question and a great point to be made, because for those who don't know, California specifically, I think there's 13 states across the country that don't require a license to be a home inspector. California is one of them. So you guys can go do a home inspection today, write a report up. Now, it's not smart, right? Because you guys are liable for what the work that you're doing. But because of that, to your point, there's a lot of people that come in as a home inspector, or even if they could have a couple of years of experience, right? But if they don't stay up to date on the codes that are changing or the continuing education, like you guys are very familiar with having to do your jobs well, then yeah, it's very easy to take the easy way out, refer to a qualified roofing contractor, plumber, electrical. For us, we try to mitigate that as much as possible. We try to resolve the answer there on site or within the report. Now, obviously, there's things beyond our capabilities and what we're, in a sense, legally bound to say, because we're licensed contractors, we can only go so far with our claims. Now, in terms of level of severity, I think something important is if someone's going to be referring a qualified professional, like you mentioned, getting an understanding of the level of severity of what the condition that they're reporting on is happening, I think is important. So I guess to paint a picture, if it's a roof, right, the kind of big expensive fixes, roofing, HVAC, foundation, plumbing, electrical, those areas is where having a qualified inspector, someone that knows what they're doing, properly trained, you can pick up the phone, have a conversation with them. We're able to elaborate a little bit further and really give you, I think, a more in-depth picture painted for you of whether or not you actually need someone to come out versus us having to do our job and have to list that on the report because of liability purposes on our end. We can't not call something out due to that happening. And then all of a sudden we get called back and have to replace a roof in 2 years. But that is a great point. And is something to take note of, because that it does happen quite a bit within the industry.
Now, and I don't mind if they say that this roof appears to have less than 5 years left.
Yeah.
Life left or something
Yeah.
like that. But if it's a general thing that they do, well, you need a roof inspection. You know?
Yeah, they can't just
Or you need a chimney inspection.
Yeah, you can't just like paint a broad brush over everything.
I mean, I also understand when you're looking down a chimney, and if it's a little off, you better call for an inspection.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, we do at our location specifically, we do have certified chimney inspectors at our level 2 chimney inspectors can certify.
And what do you charge for the mainline inspection?
The mainline inspections, if you're calling us for
Camera?
only that service and that service alone, it's about $350. If you're doing it with the home inspection, this goes for all of our additional services. Everything gets bundled in, the prices drop pretty significantly. So if you're doing it with a general inspection, you're looking anywhere from $200 to $275, depending on the home,
Camera.
for the camera to run through, which for those who don't do sewer scoping, We are in, as you guys know, this area, a lot of mature trees, right, running all throughout here. I believe the stat is if a home is 30 years old or older, there's about a 70% chance of a break, block, crack, root intrusion, some level of an issue with the main sewer line. Just about every home here is 30 years old or older, right? And that goes for stretching all the way out into LA. You deal with the neighborhoods with the long trees. Mackenzie was actually did sewer scopes for quite a bit.
I did do sewer scopes for quite a bit, and I would always recommend to do a sewer scope, whether if it's a new home or an old
I
home.
always do my client.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, the price to break concrete, to break up a driveway.
It's cost more than having to pay for a sewer scope to come out and do that.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add to that, so we're, to add to that, Jerry, we all know that of course, you're certified, state of California, you're certified. A general contractor is not certified.
Right.
So and no disrespect to either one of you.
No, it's okay.
They're not here in general, will say, well, why do I hire a general inspector? They're just finger pointing. I said, well, the value there and the importance is that your errors and omissions covers you by having a general inspector come out because they're state licensed.
Right,
state
and
certified.
Also a key point, if you are gonna use us or any other home inspection company,
Right,
if you want somebody who is a master inspector, you can ask for a CREA certified inspector, which is a national home inspector exam that you have to take to pass, which is pretty extensive. And not a lot of general inspectors have that certification. So if you do want someone who you can trust, ask for a CREA inspector.
absolutely, absolutely, because by having a general contractor, I know some of my clients who are asking for a general contractor. But there is some intent there that they want the business.
Right.
That they're gonna give you a quote on the roof or this or that because they want the business. So is it being unbiased that they're doing an actual true inspection?
Sure.
So at the end of the day, you wanna protect yourself, client and the company.
Yeah.
By having a professional inspection company come out and do the job, because you just don't know. And if you do not, make sure that you cover yourself by signing that document, having your client sign that document, BIW, by inspection way. Or the BIE, where they have all the options of what inspections they can have. Because I personally have a situation right now where I sold a house in El Monte over a year ago. And I ran into my clients at their business and I said, how was your home? Great. They were tight-knit, you know, great. I said, oh, that's good. How's the swimming pool? Summer's coming up. You know, have you been in the swimming pool a lot? No, about that. And I said, what's going on? They said, the swimming pool, they signed on having a pool inspector because the husband works for a pool company. That's a good reason.
Should be.
But now fast forward, their daughter just had surgery because she had a terminal illness caused by a swimming pool.
Wow.
Apparently
Oh my
the swimming pool has fiberglass
Oh,
and she already had a respiratory problem. So by swimming, the fiberglass went into her lungs. So she's only 3 years old. So they say to me, Sylvia, we were gonna talk to an attorney and we're very upset about this and that. And I said, you know, hold on, I understand. How's your daughter? How is she? She okay? Number one, you always want to make sure she's okay. Secondly, I said, well, let's find out about the pool. We want to make sure to take a look at the SPQ, the seller property questionnaire. You know, because the person who lived at the property passed away. So the sibling, the daughter is the one that sold the property. So they have no knowledge about anything that has been done. So I reached out to the agent, listing agent, said, we need to talk. We need to talk, we need to come to a resolution here for this family because XYZ reason. And then they say, well, I have no knowledge of that. And I said, before you have no knowledge, and I go to the other side and say, you have no knowledge, why don't we show some compassion? Why don't we do our due diligence and pull the file out and see what's in there? Because the whole family now starts complaining about the pool and they have to drain the whole pool and found out it has fiberglass. Well, I reached out to our broker, Kelvin, said, Kelvin, you know, what do you know about fiberglass in the pool? He says, well, I don't know what year it took effect, you know, and when it was done. And if we also have to be mindful, was the seller knowledgeable about this or not knowledgeable about this? Did she hire a professional pool person and did they just do the work and then disclose what they did? So these are a lot of things you can avoid. You can avoid, so, this is why we have Morrison Property Inspection. I really wanted to share that.
Awesome, thank you, Sophie.
Again, if you guys have any questions,
Yeah, I had a
yeah,
question.
go ahead.
I had an inspection time, and I'm knowledgeable in construction.
Gotcha.
Grass prior to this. And I had this inspector going to the kitchen, and it was a custom home, and the people that designed the sink, the tile was slanted towards the sink, so any water runoff would go directly into the sink.
Gotcha.
Now, the inspector says, hey, you got a problem here, your sink's not level here, your counter's not level. And I told him it's not level for a reason, they had it designed that way. Him and I went around and around and around, anyway, he put it on his report. And when my clients read it, he goes, hey, the sink's rotted, they say it's leaning. So we had to go over there, hit the underneath, explain why the water.
Yep,
runs in.
yep.
It was custom made that way,
Sure.
and they accepted it, but after talking to the guy and explaining it to him, he still put it on his report as a negative.
Right.
Now,
Yeah,
how would you approach that if you have the knowledge to say, hey, it's not rotted, you can see underneath, if you hit it, it's built that way, you can see underneath how it was framed.
Mhm.
I go, how would you handle that?
And the inspector claimed that it was rotting.
Yeah. He said the
Gotcha.
tilt was made, it was right, it was falling.
oh,
into the
okay,
sink.
gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, very fortunately for us, we deal with a lot of custom homes, especially we travel into LA, Pasadena, Beverly Hills, do a lot of inspection for a lot of custom homes. And so when it comes to that, and when it comes to what the creativity of custom homes at times kind of works against at times what code is supposed to be. So in an instance like that, it's the inspector needs to have some level of discernment to be in the home, recognize it's a custom home, recognize, especially to your point, if you're already bringing it up to him, right? To where it still may be his job to make a notation of the sink not being level. However, making a note of the customization of it and that it's not a defect, right? And so I would assume not being there, that inspector was at fault for notating that it was rotting or that it was
He
falling.
opened the Pandora's box.
Yeah,
Yeah,
versus
absolutely.
appropriately handling the comment to depict that, hey, it's a custom home, it's built this way, but still have to bring it up for the sake of the person coming in having an understanding of that, and understanding that it is built this way and it's not an issue, right?
Especially if you've communicated to the inspector that.
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
it is
showed
what
him,
it is,
went
right?
underneath, it's not rotted,
Right.
you
Yep.
see how it was framed and the tilt, I showed him everything, and yet he was,
Adamant about
he
putting
just
that in.
wanted to show he
Right.
had more authority than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
It
happens.
certainly happens.
That
And yeah, again, that's just up to the discernment of the inspector to recognize, the setting that he's in
Well,
and to
that's
be able
last
to make
week I
that
used
call.
that company.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
sure.
enough. Yeah, of course.
Also, is because it's nice to know in advance, so you prepare to be there because we
100%.
must be present with our client. So there was one company that took 6 hours. No. So, and it was a very, very uncomfortable situation
Yeah.
because, we're planning a day
All day.
and then we have a VP there from Disney
Yeah, yeah.
and we're guessing it's about 3 to 3.5 hours max and
Sure.
it's 6 hours. But the inspector justified it. But the most uncomfortable for you listing agents out there, you make sure that your clients are not present in the home when the inspector is going over the summary
Yes.
with the
It
buyers.
is, yeah.
Because it does cause friction, problem, uncomfortableness. I had one in Glendora where the seller was a general contractor and was very offended by
What
the
was said,
comments, the comments being made by the inspection company. When it was very justifiable, the company justified that the electrical work was not properly done. Our client was one of the VPs for Disney and he is in animation and needs all the electrical to be proper because otherwise all his work working during COVID would blow out.
Yep.
So, the listing agent sat there, did not control her client, did not control the situation, and it got pretty out of control and to the point where the seller, wife was crying. You know, my home, we spent all this money, we take
So it
pride
can't
in our
be
home, got so insulted. So I had to pull the listing agent aside and said, this is your fault. You should have controlled the
Yeah, you're
situation.
gonna do diligence.
This is your client, you set us up, you should have taken your client out of the home, we should have had the privacy here, and she
Right.
Yep.
understood. But
And-
these are situations where we want you to be mindful to kind of avoid.
Yeah,
Pinning you against a wall.
purchasing a home is super emotional, right? And selling the home, and you guys are fully aware of that as agents representing you guys as clients. For us, we try to remove the emotion from the inspection process by painting a clear picture. It's, hey, we're looking at an inanimate object here, right? And what's in the report is no hard feelings. It's just whether it's code, whether it is an issue, it's going to get brought up, right? And so by having the driveway presentation up front with the buyer and letting them know flat out, here's what we're looking at, and the reasons why we're calling it out: fire, health, safety, expensive fix, typically are the 4 or 5 reasonings behind something. That's able to kind of settle down the emotions, because this could be someone's, dream home that they're maybe buying, and they come to find out the inspection report isn't up to par that what they want it to be. But removing the emotion is huge. And yeah, I definitely would agree with Sylvia about not having the sellers there on site for the inspection. That could typically cause a sticky
I
situation.
always tell my buyer, well, I'll call you at the last half hour, now come over and we'll
Yeah.
sit down and go over the
Yeah,
inspection.
come-
Otherwise,
Come halfway
they
through,
just
come through.
around and,
Right.
ask everything that you're
Yeah,
doing, you
yeah.
never get done.
Yeah.
We train our inspectors to not be alarmists and be able to read specific buyers or sellers or any agent for that matter, to be able to calmly communicate and be intelligent about what they're
Sure.
saying.
And before we get Nico for his question, his presentation, and
Actually,
really-
it's not the question,
Uh-huh.
it's a, comment.
Yeah.
If you do request for repair, ask for the inspector to come and re-inspect it.
Yes, 100%.
Because, yeah, last
100%.
property that I sold, he asked for the request for repair. What happened, the seller brought a non-licensed electrician, and they cut that, one of the wires and left it open.
Wow.
And, after the buyer came in, most of the electrical, most of the plugs wouldn't work.
Mm.
Then we have to go through so much.
I
To
took
get
up
it
advice,
fixed.
I took up advice on that one. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
better to ask for the money and have the client hire somebody that they trust to get
Yeah.
the work done.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
But if you do the request for repair, make sure the inspector comes back
Good point,
and do that.
good point. Now, is that something the inspection company would do?
Yeah, we
we
come out and do
we do
re-inspections.
re-inspections for
We get it
sure.
done.
Depending on the home and what level of the reinspection in terms of like fixes being made. It's at least, I know, I can't give you a hard number off the top of my head, but it's for sure at least half the original inspection price, if not maybe a little bit less.
It is definitely half or a little bit less. Just so, and especially if we know that it's re-inspecting that specific type of area, then we would just go out and inspect, whether it's $100, it could be $50, it could be anything in between, so.
Sure.
Better pay that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's better to be safe than sorry, especially if they have already looked at the home and they are the ones that told you about the repair or cost a cure. So it's important for that same person to come out and make sure everything's fixed correctly.
Because when my client called, I was scared of fire.
Yeah.
Causing through that electrical.
100%.
of course, we're not fire experts.
No.
And comment, what I like about your company is I've never engaged with any remarks,
Hmm.
unnecessary remarks.
Sure.
There's a company, Jerry, there's a company out there that says to the homeowner, this was Mickey Mouse work.
Yeah, we don't say that.
What?
Yes, so then the homeowner says, I'm very insulted, I want to talk to your supervisor because I'm a professional industrial electrician.
Oh, wow.
So, it's best to keep the comments out of the topic,
Yes.
regardless.
Yeah, we train our inspectors specific
Yeah.
phrases. to say, not
And
to say,
never
so.
take for granted that somebody speaks your language.
Yeah.
Never take for granted. Because I've been, I'll just say, I was with, an Asian person and somebody assumed the Asian person didn't speak Spanish and that person spoke Spanish fluently. So, you never make comments and assume that that person does not understand.
And just, I guess the last point to touch on language, we do have a couple Spanish speaking inspectors. If you guys have Spanish speaking clients, you guys can request them specifically. Obviously, just depending on what the schedule looks like and if they're already booked, we can move people around to try to get them to accommodate appropriately. But other than that, really appreciate you guys letting us chat a little bit, answer some questions. And glad to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Wait, Martin. You?
No, absolutely.
Pizza?
Yeah.
Salad? Thank you so much.
I know. Oh, that was golfing.
My name is Rich.
Yes, yes, he's my stepfather, and my mom is